Welcome back to the channel, Bears fans. Today we're breaking down a name that might have surprised some people for the Chicago Bears. Obviously, after going Colston Loveland at 10 overall, then 39 overall, going Luther Burden the third. The question was, what would the Bears do with number 41? Well, what ended up happening was they traded back. They traded back and they ended up picking at 56 overall, and then subsequently 62 overall instead of 72 with the trade back with the Buffalo Bills. But they then finally addressed one of the important positions that people have been asking for, and it was offensive tackle. They didn't take one at 10. There wasn't many available. We're talking about 39 as really high profile. Some of the guys that were there at 39 were the same guys that were there at 56. So the one thing that I will say about this, that while this pick wasn't one of the ones that a lot of people expected, it could pay off in a really big way. And that's not just to say how tall and how big Ozzy is, but that's right. Ozzy Trapilo, offensive tackle out of Boston College, was selected by the Chicago Bears 56th overall. So the one thing that I want to say is that a lot of people are talking about this as a project or someone that, because they weren't a first round pick, isn't someone that people are taking seriously as someone that can compete. But we have to remember this is a second round pick. They are very valuable. It's the same thing with like Luther Burden. These are very valuable picks. So in order to talk about this, we want to kind of dive into who Ozzy Trapilo is. We want to look at why the Bears invested a second round pick in him when there was other needs out there as well. Look, offensive tackle was definitely important. It was good to see that the Bears did prioritize bringing in offensive linemen because the most important thing this year is going to be protecting Caleb Williams. So let's start with Ozzy. So he is 6'8". Yes, that is right. 6'8" and roughly about 315 pounds. He has a long he has a long wingspan and a fluid athlete for his size. Um, and that's going to be really important. We've seen a few players in the National Football League be the size and length of Ozzy and be successful, but you don't see it all the time. Like you'll see the guys that are like 6'5", 6'6", but when you have a guy that's 6'8", obviously a big thing is going to be getting his pad level low and making sure he doesn't stand up too high. That's going to be important. He was a multi-year starter for Boston College. He's played on the left side. He's played on the right. 2 years ago, he started left tackle, but then within the last 2 years, he has been playing at right tackle pretty much unanimously. So, but he played a big role in stabilizing the offensive line at Boston College. And let's be real, like Boston College's offensive line, they've had a couple of guys that have been drafted over the last couple of years, and they've been pretty good. So what stands out when you actually watch him? Well, I think the key thing that stands out is him and his pass sets. He has very quick feet, especially for the size that he is at. He anchors well and uses his length to neutralize speed. He can get beaten at times coming inside because, again, it's the whole idea of leverage and making sure that he gets his pad level low, that he's able to move quickly. He does it well sometimes, but it can be a little bit inconsistent. The one thing I would say, he's not a great run blocker just yet. In terms of what he does technically, it's fine, and it's you can tell that he was well coached at Boston College, but he still has a lot of development to go in the run game. But if you're bringing him in as kind of that pass protector on the left side or the right side, he can definitely do that. The one thing is, again, I want to reiterate, this is not a project. He is more of a high floor, high IQ type offensive tackle. And I was reading this about from Brandon Thorne, who's usually really, really good at this. And I think he ranked Ozzy as like the fifth offensive tackle, but actually called him the most pro ready offensive tackle in the 2025 NFL draft. And that's going to be important because, as we know, Braxton Jones is still injured. He's going to be injured up until training camp. So Trapilo has a really good opportunity here to, at the very least, take the initial swing tackle role for the Bears, which, look, it's going to be very important. your starting five on week 1 will not be your starting five in week 18. So it's going to be important to continuously add to this position. But the one thing I would say is he has the ability to be able to play and to compete for a starting job sooner than people think. So the second thing that I want to talk about is the actual investment here. So investing in that offensive line, making sure that Caleb Williams is comfortable. You just spent your first 2 picks on weapons to try and help Caleb. In order to do that, you can't then not want to spend on the offensive line. So it is good. 56 overall, that is a serious investment. That is not somebody that you're like, well, they might be able to start in 2 years' time. No, he's going to compete this year. And if he doesn't win it over Braxton Jones, that's fine, because Braxton is fine. But if he's able to compete with him, it means that if Braxton does leave at the end of the year, you already have the replacement in house, and you're not kind of struggling to find somebody to bring in here. Because if we look at our offensive line, obviously the middle 3 are set because they've all been brought in this year. Darnell Wright will stick at right tackle most likely. Braxton Jones, so like he's the one that everybody talks about because he's solid. He's still developing, but the question marks are going to be there because you don't want to pay him 25 million plus at the end of the year. And really, if Ozzy can come in here and be productive, that's the best solution for the Bears. What Trapilo gives Chicago is insurance, upside, and leverage. So he can back up both left tackle and right tackle straight away at the very minimum. He can compete with Braxton Jones to start at left tackle because he's going to get a lot of the playing time in minicamp, OTAs, probably the first week or 2 of training camp until Braxton Jones comes back in. And the one thing that will be the case is Braxton Jones will have to get back into football shape while Trapilo will be there. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it works out in that one. Where this helps is if Braxton comes back in and struggles, you already have somebody to put in. Or again, if Braxton at the end of the year, there's all the contract talks, and if they're not close to a deal, like I said, you already have somebody to bring in. So then the next stage of this is, okay, how does he fit Ben Johnson's style? Because we always look at some of the guys that they had. So obviously Taylor Decker played at left tackle. You had Penei Sewell at right tackle. A lot of people want to compare Darnell Wright to Penei Sewell, so then you need to look at a potential Taylor Decker type guy. So this is where it really does matter. Does he fit? With Ben Johnson now calling the shots. Ben Johnson, it's seemingly in this draft, picking guys that he wants within his system and really kind of pounding the table for those guys. You have to remember the Bears are shifting towards a more modern, motion heavy, timing based offense. So, in order to be able to do that, protection is going to be of key importance, right? The reason why Detroit were so good is there was clean pockets around Jared Goff. He had lots of time to make the right decisions, and that's what the Bears need to be able to do with Caleb Williams. Give him the time, give him the space to be that kind of sometimes do the hero ball, but make the right decisions. So it's good that they were able to invest early in this draft and a second round pick on that. And now it's going to be interesting to see how he performs over the summer because he has an opportunity to dislodge Braxton Jones if he performs well. And that's what Ben Johnson alluded to, that nobody has their name markered in as the starter in many different positions. Obviously, it's kind of tongue in cheek. There's certain positions we already know who the starters are, but left tackle is going to be an interesting one to watch out for over the coming weeks and months. And I think that's going to be really, really important. So yeah, what does what does this mean for Caleb? Means he has more options. It means that if somebody does go down, so like let's say Braxton does start and he goes down, you have somebody to come in. It's the same with one of the later round picks in terms of Newman that was brought in. You have Ryan Bates, you have Kiran Amagaji, who was brought in for a third round pick. Again, nothing to be snuffed at. Can he develop? If you can get development from Ozzy, if you can get development from Kiran, if you can get Ryan Bates to stay healthy, and then a couple of the other guys that will be backing up as well, then you have more depth on your offensive line, but you also have a better starting group on the offensive line. And what it means is you allow Caleb to be Caleb, you give him the time and space, you allow the guys that you drafted in Colston Loveland and Luther Burden and Brahma Dunze and Cole Komet, DJ Moore to really be themselves and to be able to show that they can catapult this offense back to the 21st century to where the Bears can finally play good offense in the NFL. And that's what I'm really excited about. I think this is one player that teams have, or not teams, but fans have kind of forgotten a little bit about overall. And I say, you can see it here, no penalties, 34 starts overall. When I say 7 sacks allowed, his first season with Boston College, he allowed 5. So in 2 of the 4 years, he allowed 0 sacks. So again, very, very good player. What we just need to look at is to see how he develops. If he develops well over training camp, I would not be surprised if he's able to really compete with Braxton Jones to be your left tackle, or potentially if the Bears do want to move Darnell Wright from right tackle to left tackle, which is a possibility, there's not going to be a problem putting Ozzy into right tackle. Let me know how you guys see this draft pick, if you're happy with it. If, look, it's good to have offensive linemen coming in here. If there was somebody else that you would have preferred at this position, or was there another offensive lineman in that second round that you were looking at that you would have preferred? Or are you happy that the Bears have invested in the position, that they are trying to build depth, but also build good quality on their offensive line? Please let us know. Obviously, the next video that'll be going out there is Shamar Turner, the defensive tackle from Texas A&M, who was the last second round pick, number 62 overall. So make sure you check that out. If you haven't checked out the Luther Burden and the Colston Loveland videos, make sure you check those out as well on the channel. And we will come back for our next video, which will be on Shamar Turner.